Hello and welcome back to Guided Souls. I'm your host, Katie, and I'm so excited to be back here for another week with you guys. If you prefer to watch instead of listen, you can head on over to my YouTube channel at Guided Soul Crystals. You can also follow me on all the socials at Guided Soul Crystals. If you are an individual who listens to this podcast like the morning that it comes out on Wednesday mornings, I do apologize that this is coming out later in the day on Wednesday. I did have an entire podcast recorded yesterday that I ended up just feeling like it wasn't the right time to release that. And I'll talk more about that in a moment, but it really sort of led me to today's topic, which is all about time, timing, divine timing, the impact that time has on our lives. Because it is kind of a trippy concept when you think about it. It is a finite resource. And in my opinion, it's one of the things that gives our life meaning. Like if we didn't have time, if we didn't have a set number of days on this earth, the way that we would live our lives and think about our lives would change significantly. So having done something yesterday that felt like a waste of time because I realized it wasn't the right time to set it or to put it out there just made me feel like, okay, this is going to be this week's topic. So apologize it's late, but better late than never. And yeah, yesterday I recorded a podcast episode talking about my mental health journey. And I know I have alluded to different mental health struggles that I've gone through on this podcast, but I have never spoken about it in detail. I've never said, this is specifically what I've struggled with. This is the origin story. This is where I'm at with it right now. And I want to share that story because honestly, it's something that I have felt a lot of shame and embarrassment around for a very long time. I don't share that part of myself with anyone. Like I will occasionally talk to my husband about it, but aside from that, it's like buried deep down inside of me, and it's not really something that I struggle with on a daily basis anymore, but it is a part of my story. I did go through some very dark times, and I don't want it to fester inside of me and present itself as something that I should be ashamed or embarrassed of. I want to see it as this really tough thing that my soul went through, but that I'm so strong for having gone through it, and I've overcome so much adversity in, the short time that I've had here so far. And I want to be able to be proud of that. So that was my reasoning for recording yesterday's podcast episode. It just felt like the right time to share it and to put it out there. But as I was editing it, I kind of had this pit in my stomach like, ooh, this is really scary to put this out here. And I knew it was going to be scary, but this was different. It felt like kind of a sense of dread of like, this could go badly if I put this out here. And I don't actually think that bad things would happen. But it is a point of no return in terms of once you say something, you can't unsay it. People in your life cannot unhear something. And I do have a lot of people, friends and family members who listen to this podcast. And so it was hard for me to wrap my brain around all of these people in my life knowing this information about me because it is incredibly vulnerable. So I do think that I will come forward with it at some point, but my brain just was not ready for that day to be today. And I was kind of frustrated because I spent my computer kept crashing. I spent so much time editing it, like way more than usual, which honestly probably should have been a sign to me that like the universe was putting roadblocks in my way to be like, hey, let's think about this before we just put this out here. And then I also got like really, really frustrated and upset with the fact that I even have this shame to begin with, and that society has made me feel like I am less than or other or even crazy for having dealt with these issues that are probably more common than a lot of people think. And on top of that, it is a medical thing. And we think of mental health as something that I think sometimes we think of it as like the person is choosing to do that, or again, that they're crazy or something like that. Like we look down upon mental health. But if someone had like, a physical ailment, we wouldn't we wouldn't think of a person differently because they have, diabetes or something. And so it just feels like this really frustrating double standard of like, I have this medical thing that I feel so embarrassed and ashamed about that it's like a really big deal for me to talk about it. And I feel angry that society has kind of made me feel that way in the first place. So I went through this whole journey last night, ended up deciding I do want to tell this story, but it's just not the right time for me. My body and my brain and my heart just don't feel safe putting it out into the world just yet. And that's not a reflection of anyone who listens to this podcast or any of the people in my life who listen. It's not that I don't trust or love them. It's just, I've spent the past 15 years burying this down deep inside of me. And it's a really big freaking deal for me to come out with it. So I realized that while I do want to share this, the timing is not right. And I need more time to process things on my own and to really sort of make sure that I feel safe and comfortable with putting it out there before I put it out there. And so that's really what kind of got me on these thoughts of time. And, the past year has been relatively difficult for me in terms of career. It's been beautiful. I have loved the transformation that I have gone through, but it's also been really hard and really slow. And there have been so many times where I have just felt like I just want to speed up past this part. I just want to get to the part where I feel stable and secure and I know what I'm doing and I see my path and I'm not confused or scared. And, looking back, I realized that I needed the last year for my soul to grow and process and heal and adjust and get used to all of these new ideas and all of these new endeavors and being seen by massive amounts of people, but also by people in my life, having them see me authentically in a way that they never have before. I think so often we want things to happen overnight, but our soul and our brain and our body just need time to process things before we're ready. And if we're thrust into things before we're ready, it's not going to feel safe. It is going to feel scary. It is going to feel confusing. And in a way that sort of jeopardizes our long-term happiness and success. And so I'd much rather have this long period of time on the front end than be, shoved into something that I'm not ready for and crash and burn. On the flip side of that, I have definitely felt like, okay, 2024 is the year that I have to like get things together, figure out finances, figure out what direction I'm going in. And so I'm recording this on July 31st. So August starts tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's only, a handful of months left in the year. And I am not anywhere near where I thought I would be by now. And I think back to a year ago. And if I had, it's funny because I've come so far, but at the same time, if I had known that I would be where I'm at today and not like further along and progressed, I don't know if I ever would have taken the leap of faith that I did in the first place. Like it would have been really difficult for me to wrap my mind around. It's going to be over a year of you trying to like trudge through this uncharted territory and figure out your path and work through, your scarcity mindset and have a healthy relationship with money and feel comfortable in your own skin. Like I don't know that I ever would have taken the leap to begin with. So in that sense, I'm glad that I didn't know that it was going to take this long, because I think that might have discouraged me from doing it in the first place. And I can see now, if I had had this success in January of this year, if I had had the success that I want in January of this year, it would have not gone well at all. And the universe is really preparing me in every way, shape, or form to be in the best spot mentally and physically possible when I step into the success and the certainty and the stability that I am so desperately craving. And when I think about some of the, I don't know if I want to call them mistakes, but some of the decisions that I've made that I later had to end up undoing, like they went against my intuition and I wasn't really listening to what my gut was telling me. The one thing that all of those decisions have in common is that I did not give myself time to make them. I just did it really quickly without really thinking it through, and then I later ended up regretting that. One of those things was like where I decided to go to college. And I genuinely don't regret where I did my freshman year of college, but I was very upfront about the fact that I decided so early. I decided in like December, because I did like early applications or whatever, just so that the decision was made and I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Like I really did not like the feeling of ambiguity. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm just going to make this decision and then it'll be off my plate and I won't have to worry about it. Hindsight, not the best way to go about making a decision like that. So I ended up transferring after my first year, but I was meant to have that experience and go through that. I also have a tattoo that I hate that I am getting removed and have been getting removed for several years now. And if I had just given myself more time to think about it, it's a long story. The guy was horrendous to me. He was so rude. He did nothing like what we discussed. He changed the tattoo style halfway through tattooing me and told me as he was tattooing me that he was changing the style of it. It was like there was so much of it that was not my fault. And so I don't want to put all of that on myself because I've spent too much time kicking myself for that already. So I don't want to keep doing that. However, if I had just said, screw this, I don't need to rush into this. Maybe it's wasting this guy's time to walk out the door, but I don't need to make this decision right now. I would have saved myself a lot of money, time, pain, anguish, just so much stuff if I had just given myself more time. And it is interesting because it feels like on a daily basis, at least for me, what I feel surrounding time is this pressure to get things done quickly, to speed up, to not take too much time, to get to a certain goal. And honestly, sometimes I want to speed up through time so that I can get to that certain goal. But then when you zoom out and think about the story of your life, you're like, I want as much time as possible. I want to appreciate every day. I want to appreciate the people around me. I want to, enjoy the process, not just the destination. I want to enjoy the journey. But we don't think about that kind of stuff on a daily basis. We think about, okay, I need to pay this bill. I need to get all of this stuff done. Like, how much can I pack into this day? And what is my plan for the rest of the week and the month and the year? And what am I trying to achieve? And not like, what do I want to appreciate about this time and about these moments? Because they are so fleeting. And I actually think that when we look back on some of those times where we just wanted to speed up, we just wanted to get through it, we realized that there was a lot of beauty in that period where we just wanted to speed through it that we missed out on because we were so focused on just like getting to the next thing, and we didn't just enjoy where we were at. And I think it's really common to feel like you are behind in life, especially if you are in your 20s or 30s. There's a lot of pressure. You're looking around at everyone to see, okay, who's in a relationship, who's married, who has kids, who has a good job, who has a house, who has like secured all of these things that signify to society that they are a successful human being. And it's ridiculous that we look at people, other people, and compare themselves to us as to, oh, I'm behind in life, when we have our own timeline and there is nothing that, we can do to speed that up or change that. Obviously we have free will, and we do need to take action towards certain things, but you're going to meet the right person when you're meant to meet the right person. You're going to discover your dream career and have that success when you're meant to. You're going to find the house when you're meant to. And so to spend all this time looking at other people and comparing yourself to them is a waste of time. You're focused on, I'm behind, but by focusing on that, you are wasting your own time. And I personally have a hard time not harping on myself or feeling negatively about things that quote unquote waste my time, things that don't work out. I'm sure that people who are maybe currently dating, who are with someone for a few months or even a year, and it ends up not working out, they're like, oh, you wasted my time, or that was a waste of time. For me, it's more like I go down these avenues in terms of career and exploring different things that end up not being the thing, because I'm always supposed to come back to being a medium. Just a little plug for myself again to remind myself of that. But I keep going down all these avenues that end up in dead ends. And then I'm like, that was a waste of time. Why did I do that? Why can't I just see that being a medium is the path? And how much further along would I be if I didn't have all these detours, if I didn't keep going 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Like, I'm wasting my own time by doing all of these things. But I have to realize that, like, this is a part of my process. Experimenting is who I am. I have to try and fail in order for me to know that I gave something my all, and to not have those what ifs, and to be even more sure of my path. Because that's the other thing, is every single time I come back to the mediumship path, I'm more sure than ever that it is the path for me. And if I had just like charged down it without doing any of these detours, I may not have that same sense of, no matter what, I have to keep trying and giving this my all, because I've gone down so many avenues that have not worked and that have led me back to this one. So I have to give this my all and really commit to this. So I think our relationship that we have with time is an interesting one to examine. Like, are you the type of person like me who tries to speed through things? Or are you the type of person who wants to slow down, who always just wants to, kind of revel in what they have and stay in the same place and enjoy exactly where they are and not progress? There has to be a balance between the two. We have to keep moving forward, but we also have to recognize that we're always on time and there's no need to rush. And I think one thing that losing someone close to you does is it makes you reevaluate how you feel about time, particularly when you zoom out and look at the span of your life, because it is so easy to get wrapped up in little day-to-day things. But when you lose someone, particularly if they didn't live to be an old age, it's kind of like a wake-up call. You're like, oh, wow, I don't want to waste any time on things that don't matter to me, because time is a finite resource and none of us know when our last day will be. And I know that there's a lot of people that fear death and that is a real fear that a lot of people have. I don't have that, but I am hyper aware that you can't wait to do things in life. You cannot put your dreams on hold. You cannot put your happiness on hold. You just don't have that kind of time. Even if you end up living to be 100, you don't know that when you're 25. You don't know that when you're 30, because you may only live to be 35. And so it's like, you can see that as a really terrifying, sad thought, or you can see that as, well, if I happen to be on my deathbed a year from now, will I be proud of the life that I lived? And if not, what am I going to do in the next year to change that? What am I going to do today to change that? And I think it can become this really beautiful motivator if you allow it to be. And it also goes with, appreciating the people around you. Not only do you not know how much time you have, you don't know how much time they have. And so really making the most of those moments and letting petty things go by the wayside, like how you don't want to be that person who has a loved one pass away when you were in a fight. It's like, it's just not worth it. And I have made it a big point as much as I can to try and show up for the people that I love whenever big things happen in their life, because I want to know that if our time is cut short, that I was there, that I was by their side, that I was celebrating with them, or that I was mourning with them. Whatever that person needs in that moment for those big life events, I want to be there for that person so that they can feel my love. And when one of us is gone, if they're gone first, I can rest easy knowing that I was there for them. And I don't know if this is 100% true, but from what I understand and from what, other spiritual individuals have said as well, it's that time is just a construct that we have here on earth, and that it doesn't exist in the 5D or in the spiritual realm, which is, it's hard for me to comprehend an existence without time. Sometimes I think about, well, if there's no time in the 5D and everything is just infinite, how does anything have meaning? And maybe that's one of the reasons our souls crave coming to earth, is because there's an extra layer of meaning, because we have this finite resource that is time, that gives meaning to our lives. So I just think our relationship with time is this really delicate balance of recognizing it's a finite resource. I don't want to waste time. I want to live the life that I want to live right now, and I want to appreciate the life that I have right now, while also recognizing there is no rush. You are exactly where you are meant to be. You are right on time, and there is no need to compare yourself or your life to anyone else. There is no need to achieve things as quickly as you possibly can. As long as you are progressing and working towards your goals and working towards that life of happiness and fulfillment and authenticity, then you're right on time. You're right on track. One of the things that really used to freak me out in my grief process was after my dad passed away, I would just have these moments of sheer panic when I would realize that I had to live the rest of my life without my dad. And that just seemed so hard, and it was so long, and I had no idea how I was going to get through that. And it's been 6 years, I think. And I don't think I could have envisioned how I would even get through 6 years during the first year. And sometimes last night I was still thinking about, I have to live the rest of my life without him, without being able to give him a hug. And that is really, really a hard concept to think about. But I'm sure if I hopefully live to be, the age of 60, I will realize I got through it. I got through that time without being able to give him a hug, and I will get through the rest of this time as well. And I think a lot of us want to speed up through the tragedy, through the heartache, through the heavy emotions, through the darkness, and we want to stay in the happiness, in the light, in the love as much as we can. And while I think that that is a natural human reaction and desire, I would also challenge you to think about the fact that your soul came here to experience all of it. I know that that is hard to grasp sometimes, especially when something really hard and heavy happens, like losing a loved one, like feeling this deep, deep grief. But your soul signed up for this path for a reason, and it did not come here just to feel those highs. It came here to feel those lows as well. And so, as much as you can, being able to honor the time that you have and realize that nothing is permanent. So when you're down in the dumps, when it's so hard, reminding yourself, this will pass and I'm just going to try and ease into this moment. But also, when you're happy, when you're on cloud nine, I don't think you need to bring yourself down, but just recognizing I want to appreciate this while it lasts, but I'm also okay and I feel safe in the fact that this isn't going to be forever. And when the time does come that, maybe I have to go more down and deal with some heavy emotions and some heavy things happening, I will get through that too. And I will experience that too. And I'm grateful for those moments as well, because those are the moments when our soul really grows. And those are the moments that a lot of times our soul craves in terms of why we came to earth in the first place. Because I do believe that humans, in terms of, all of the different types of beings that are out there, which I don't even know, what all the options are, but I do get the sense that humans are able to feel things on such a deep level that is not always the case in other realms. And so part of why we want to come here is to feel those really deep feelings, as difficult as some of them may be. And if we try to rush that, we are doing our souls a disservice by not honoring that that is part of the reason why we came here. And I do definitely believe in divine timing. It used to be something that drove me nuts. If you listen back a couple months ago, I feel like any time I mentioned time, I would just be like, I hate timing. I hate divine timing. I hate having to wait for things. It's so hard. But luckily, in these past couple months, I think I've really realized that I'm always on time. Everything is always working out for me exactly when it is meant to. If something isn't here yet, it's because it's not meant to be here, and there's more that I need to do to prepare before it can be here. And I'm going to be grateful to the universe that I have the time to prepare for that. And I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but I have these moments where it freaks me out how fast time has gone. And at the same time, I wish it was a different time. I realized that this is the last day of July, tomorrow's August, and that really freaked me out. I was like, where did this year even go? And then, in the same few minutes, I checked the weather and I see that there's 100-degree day in the forecast. And I'm just like, ugh, I just wish it was fall. I miss Christmas time. And it's like, wait a second. I was just, focusing on the fact that this year has zoomed by and where did the time go? And now suddenly I'm thinking about, I wish it was a different time in the future instead of just appreciating the time that I have in this present moment. So I don't really know about there's so many different facets and layers to time, and it is such a complicated but beautiful construct that we have on this earth and as humans. And I think it's important to evaluate the relationship that we have with time, how we think about it, how we utilize it, how it impacts us. And when you do that, I think you'll see that you really learn to appreciate the time that you have. You slow down, you don't try and speed things up, but at the same time, you're not taking it for granted. You're not just, sitting back and waiting for something to fall in your lap because you know that time is a finite resource. So I know I said time like 30,000 times in this podcast episode, so I apologize for that, but hopefully this was helpful or at least interesting in terms of getting us to think about time in different ways. And, kind of tying it back to the beginning, I do think that I will speak about my mental health journey at a future point in time, but I just wasn't ready for that today, and that's okay. And I didn't waste my time yesterday by recording it. I tried something, it didn't work out, I adjusted, and now I'm getting this out a little bit late in terms of time, but that's okay. So thank you so much for listening to me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend, posting it on your Instagram story. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. If you go to my podcast page and you scroll down, there'll be stars at the bottom. Just click those 5 stars, write a review if you want to. That really helps me out so much. And if you happen to be in the market for any crystals, you can head on over to guidedsoulcrystals.com. You can find me on all the socials at Guided Soul Crystals. And until next time, keep going. You are doing amazing, and I love you.